Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, welcome everyone. We've got Armando Martinez back. How lucky are we to have you back, especially on this topic, Armando. You are the best person to talk about this topic, which is step parents and moving from step parent to bonus parent, this transition into becoming the best version for your family. And so I'm so glad that you're in this conversation, and maybe you can tell us a little bit why you're the best person to talk about it.
Well, I think for me, my heart for step parents came out of my couples work, actually working with couples.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was working with them, this topic of being a step parent and trying to figure out the footing kept coming up over and over again. And so it's like, there's something there. And as I was working with different clients and different children, their ideas of their step parent and their relationship with the step parent kept coming up. And so I started to piece things together, and it clicked and it made sense for a lot of people. And so I had a couple of people in mind, and we were able to create this group. And so at Brighter Possibilities, I created this bonus parent class.
Oh my goodness, that's exactly it. And I really, we'll get into that a little bit later, but there's so much that I think that you've learned from that process, working with families and working with bonus parents, to say, this is what we have found to be extremely helpful. And I can't wait for the listeners to get some of that, get a little flavor of that, and what that's like to get into that. So let's do this. Let's start with maybe some stats with some step parents. What are some stats that you think would be helpful for the listeners to know?
I think, Michael, like when we think about step parents and we think about our families or people we know, we can very quickly think of either we were raised by step parents, we are a step parent, we have step parents that are friends. It's in our culture. We see it all the time. And I think statistically, it's important to understand that of everyone that gets married annually in a year, half of those marriages are remarriages. So that means somebody's been married before. Half of those are getting married again. And of that, 65% of those marriages have children. So someone's becoming a step parent. So they're everywhere. Everybody is being impacted by these step parents. So it'd be silly not to talk to them, not to kind of listen to the struggles that they have.
Right. Are these, when you've worked with these step parents, and we'll talk about a bonus parent, what's the difference between the two, but we'll say for now, step parents, when you've talked to step parents, what are the challenges that they're finding? What are they facing then?
Yeah, a lot of challenges that step parents face are what are the boundaries? Like, what's my lane? What am I supposed to be in? What's my role, right? Am I a real parent? Or am I seen as a real parent? Do I have that authority, right? How do I balance my relationship with my partner and balance their relationship with their kids? And how do I balance my relationship with their kids? And if I have kids or their kids, you think back to like the Brady Bunch of how does everybody balance that together? And then also connecting with children, right? Sometimes you've never had teenagers, and then poof, instant family.
Yep.
And now you have a 13-year-old and you're like, I've never interacted with a 13-year-old before in my life. What do I do? And so I think that's kind of the challenges they have. And on top of that, you think of all the stereotypes that exist with step parents. I mean, Michael, what are some stereotypes you've heard about step parent?
Well, I think stereotypes go all the way back to the Disneys.
Mm-hmm.
When we talked about like Cinderella and the evil stepmom or the evil queen and I've wondered if that ever played an impact on our culture, just in general, that says we view them as this evil person who's coming in and has this division in mindset. And then you wonder if there's something subconscious that parents come in and step parents come in and maybe play out that role, not realizing that
Mm-hmm.
in their own mindset, they think that's who they're supposed to be, and it's not. So the stereotypes typically are they're evil,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're divisive. They're trying to replace someone. So be like the stepdad's trying to replace the dad, or stepmom's trying to replace the mom. All those things come in, and I think stereotypes exist because there's some layer of truth behind them, but not in all cases.
I would agree. I
Yeah.
think what's interesting is all the stereotypes you discussed were all kind of negative or dark, right?
Yeah, I did. That's true.
None of them were like, oh, they were super great and helpful. And I think that's a major challenge that a lot of step parents face is
Mhm.
they're coming into this role that is we see as bad, right, as scary. And so being able to shed light on that and change the mindset of people, both to kids, the other parent, your current spouse, all
Right.
of that, I think is important.
The parents you've talked to, bonus parents,
Mhm.
the step parents take your class, they become bonus parents by the end. They
That's
take
the goal.
Yeah,
That's the goal, yes.
it's right. So these bonus parents, as they come out, how are they wanting to be seen by the family, by the children? What are they telling you that they want to? I want to be seen as such.
They want to be a part of the family. They
Oh.
want to they want to feel like that is their family because it is.
Mm.
They want to be a part of that system. They want to engage in that system. And how wonderful is that you have a person who is choosing to be a part of that family. You weren't just born into it. Some of us, we can't, what's the saying? You can pick your nose, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family.
You can't break a friend's nose.
Well, you shouldn't. I don't know how often you spend time at a school, but sometimes that happens. But I think with step parents, they come into this and I think they know some of the challenges, but the reality sometimes is a little bit harder.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. So let's talk about, and I know we like to talk about it like we're driving down the road and we have lanes, right?
Yes.
So what's the step parent lane on this road? Or how many lanes do we have? Like,
That's the question, right?
Ah.
That's really it. Like, what are the different roles? What is my lane, right? And I think the first role that a lot of step parents get pigeonholed into is the negative one, right?
Mhm.
Like we spoke to, is the evil step parent, the bad step parent. It's all over media. We see it. They're bad. They're scary.
that's the lane we keep them in?
The line either we put them in, or sometimes the kids put them in that lane,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I've seen that.
The other partner, the other co-parent puts them in that lane.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they get a little jaded, they get a little bitter, and they end up in that lane themselves without realizing it. And I think that's dangerous also.
And that's more how they respond to it, isn't it?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly how it is. It's how am I responding to these stressors? How am I responding to these challenges? And I'm becoming angry, I'm becoming bitter, and it's easy to kind of fall into that role.
So is there something that step parents need to remember when they're coming into the family? When you're marrying into this family, you're meeting the kids, you're becoming part of it, you're kind of taking on the X too.
Yes.
Maybe that's something step parents need to realize is like, if mom or dad is still in existence, I'm taking on that also.
You are. Yes, absolutely.
So what would be something that they should keep in mind or remember as they're entering into the family system?
I think one of the best things to remember is that this family existed before you came into it.
Wow.
That there was a system that functioned before you came into it. Whether it functioned well or bad, it was functioning, and you're stepping into that to change the system. You're a new cog in the system, and you're going to fundamentally change that system, and some people don't like that.
So let's look at it from two perspectives. If they come into the system and they're highly embraced, let's say by the kid, by the other parent, the bio parent, if they're highly embraced, is there a way they should approach that?
I think you lean into it, right? I think I've worked with families where the step parent actually is such a benefit to the family dynamic and the family system, the bonus parent.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what separates them, is that they become the bonus parent. They are extra, they're additive, they're not destructive, and they're helpful. And sometimes they have a better working relationship with the other co-parent than their spouse does. And that's always interesting to see how that plays out.
I've in the past, I've had sessions where I've brought in the step parents.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had sessions with the step parents, not the parents.
With just the step parents and the bonus parents.
Just bonus parents.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was amazing. It's amazing when you can see that in the system, how and because you're learning how it's functioning. So let's go back to a step parents entering into a family and they're not highly embraced. They're like, oh, so-and-so's coming in. Oh, new daddy's coming in. Oh, new mama's coming in, right? And then that may be like the old stereotypes we're talking about. When that happens to a step parent, how should they embrace that? How should they navigate that?
I think you really need to ask yourself, what is my role, right? What do I want? Am I here to replace this person? Am I here because this person is bad, this person's evil, and so I'm going to replace them? Or maybe you're the step parent because that other parent isn't in the picture at all.
Right.
And so you do fall into that role and you replace. And really think about, what is my role? How can I be additive and helpful? So again, I think it's really checking in with yourself and really knowing how to take care of myself to be the best for the family.
Got it. And in certain scenarios that I've seen when I've worked with families and step parents, is I've seen this happen where the step parent plays one role at one point, some breakdown occurs, and now we want to move step parent out of this role. Like they want to transition them into something else. And how hurtful that is to the step parent, going, I used to be viewed as this, and now I'm viewed as evil. Or I was viewed as evil, now I'm seen as this. It's become great. And wanting to understand how it transitions, and do they play a role in that? Does the step parent play a role in that transition? And I find it so heartbreaking because, to me, I look at the step parents and think, you have no supports. You know what I mean? Like, you're in this, and it can change at any moment. The wind changes and the cells go a different direction. And it's heartbreaking because I feel the step parents are in a scenario or a situation where they don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. I don't know how to navigate this. Or, the kid's in trouble, and I've got to set the rules and standards in the home. However, if I do that, either my partner's going to be upset, the other bio parent's going to, and so they're constantly kind of going, where do I belong in this? Have you noticed that?
And I think that's the biggest difficulty, is figuring out what the role is and understanding that your role will change. Sometimes you choose to change the role. Sometimes the greater system, right? The family, the other co-parent, if they're in litigation, the law will push them into a different role.
Right.
And I think sometimes to remember that those roles happen, and sometimes it's to protect you, because I've told several step parent, bonus parents, you're low-hanging fruit. You're an easy target, especially if you're in litigation. You are easy target for somebody to point at and say, look at this, they're an evil person. Look at what they did.
It's scapegoating is what we used to call it.
And that's what it is. It's scapegoating. I mean, think of this scenario where, I think you mentioned it, a bonus parent is trying to discipline their child, hold the expectations.
Yeah.
The child doesn't like it, runs to their other parent, not in the home, but in the other parent. What is that child going to tell that other parent?
Oh, they're going to tell them that step parent was so mean to them and did these horrible things and won't let them do X, Y, Z. Not telling them what caused it, but we'll tell them how the other person responded or reacted to them, as if they're hated or shunned or whatever else. I've seen it like that.
Exactly. I have too. And then that other parent becomes irate, becomes upset, because they want to protect their child. Here's this person, they're abusing my child, they're hurting my child, they're being disrespectful, they don't care about them. How could they care about them the way I do?
Right.
And this bonus parent is just trying to be a part of the family, trying to be helpful, and they can be placed in that role.
So let me ask this. For some of those that are listening that maybe could play dual roles, they're a step parent to one, but a bio to another, or it's just the bio parent listening right now, what should they keep in mind when they're working with a step parent?
I think it's important to understand how difficult their position is.
The step parent.
The step parent's role is to understand that there's no playbook. The lanes are, there are plenty of lanes in the highway, and we're going at fast speeds. And I think it's also the difficulty too is if it's a blended family where you have, one spouse has their own biological child, the other spouse has their own biological child, and you bring it in, again, the Brady Bunch type scenario, those dynamics can be very different also, because you can discipline those children very differently, which can cause all sorts of difficulties. Again, that's where this came out of my couples work, is through those challenges that couples were facing.
What I love that you did, Armando, is you saw the challenge and you embraced it and said, here's a layer in the family that, and really, in my opinion, has been just completely overlooked. I don't see a lot of programs and resources for step parents. I don't see them. There's parenting books out the wazoo, right? There's divorce books everywhere. But to go specific to a step parent, like, hey, I'm taking on a new family, right? Or I'm getting engaged. And when you gave those stats earlier, you talked about how many of these families that are engaged in getting married, right, that are actually becoming step parents in some form. And here's the crazy thing. If you're not a step parent, you know one.
Yep.
There's no way you don't know one. You know a family that has one. You have a cousin that has one, or someone you know is a step parent, right? And so it is so much more common than it's not, but yet there's so little.
And I think that's the error, that we don't talk about that enough, right? And we don't address it. And I think
We're talking about it.
and I'm glad. And I think as as therapists, I think it's important that we address all the things that come into our office that we see, that we face, and not be afraid of it. And
Right.
call it to the mat, if you will, and say, hey, this is an issue. We need to address this.
Do you suppose that's what helps things get better for people, is when they embrace the challenge? So like, hey, as a step parent, it's challenging. It's hard. Your role, the thing you said today that really struck me is your role is fluid. I don't know I don't know if I've ever told a step parent, like, do you know that your role is going to consistently change as things change, as dynamics change? You're going to change. I think I know that conceptually, but to be told that and go, oh, well, that's why it could start one way, go to another, or whatever else. But then we personalize it and we get attacked. And so what do? We defend ourselves, or we respond.
And I think that's the important thing, is telling step parents that your role will change. And so when they feel like, well, I was treated this way last week and now I'm being treated this way, and now court is this way. I've been here 10 years and now I'm being, I'm pushed back.
Yes.
How dare they? And it's difficult to say, yes, you are doing that. I'm so sorry. That is happening to you. I understand that difficulty. And I think if you're the other spouse, right? If you're the other spouse and you're married to a step parent, or you have a step parent, having that empathy for them is so important.
You're talking about the spouse that's married to the step parent.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've remarried.
You've remarried, and your new wife is the step parent of your children. Having that empathy for that.
For my wife, for the role she's playing in that.
Because it's so difficult. It's so hard.
Yep.
And I think for the step parent and the bonus parent to have that dialogue with their spouse, and the kids for that matter, because that's how you know, what do you want from me? Where do we put myself? How do I do this? And I think that's where you become helpful, and you become additive, and you become a positive addition. And that's what turns you into a bonus parent.
So say that again. What turns you into a bonus parent? I want them to hear this.
I think turning yourself into a bonus parent is having those conversations with your spouse, with the kids, and remember to be additive, to be positive, right? You're adding to something. So you're a positive addition, turns you into a bonus parent.
Yep, you're a plus one. Don't become the one.
I love that.
I'm not the one. I'm the plus one.
Plus.
Yeah, you're adding to it. So let's go over a couple things, Armando. Some notes I made for myself here. Find your footing.
Yes.
So describe that one more time. What does that mean, find your footing?
I think it means understanding that your role is fluid, and ask questions.
Got it. Find where can I best serve to be the plus one into this family system. Connecting. And I think we talked about that just with the child too. Like, find where you connect, right? And make that be part of the emotional bridge.
And I think that is so important, is that the challenge is, how do I connect? Especially, again, if I remarry and I enter into a relationship, into a new family, and now I have this 7-year-old, and I've never interacted with children before, 7-year-olds.
Right.
I don't know how they think. I don't know what they do. And so being able to not be afraid to ask questions, and dare I say, ask the child, what are you into? What do you like? That there's
take an interest in the kid.
Take an interest in the kid.
Yeah.
Like what they like. If the kid wants to sit there and play Fortnite, hey, let me sit there and watch Fortnite. What's going on? You're going to be annoying, but they're going to connect with you because you take interest in what they're doing.
Yes. People like you to be interested in what they're interested in.
Exactly.
For sure. So I wrote 2 more. I wrote, your role is fluid.
Yes.
It will change over time.
It 100% will change.
Got it.
And don't be surprised when it does. You will be, but take a step back and be like, oh, I knew this. I knew this was happening.
Yeah, this is where I need to be now to stay the plus one.
This is what I trained for.
Yeah, this is what I trained for. And then I have the last note here, discussing with your spouse so that you can align, and hoping that spouse can provide that empathy to you, the step parent, but discussing that, and having those dialogues with one another in front of the kids or not in front of the kids.
I would do it not in front of the kids.
Now, I have to say that. I have to say it because some people will just be like, well, I'm discussing it, but the kids are right there. It's just these poor kiddos. And I will tell you, their ears perk up on stuff like this. And if they're low-hanging fruit, they're easy targets, they'll pick up on any kind of stuff. 'Cause I've seen kids in certain scenarios where instead of just going, I'm mad at my step-parent, what they'll do is they'll see the step-parent and the parent arguing and fighting, go tell the other parent. So their parent thinks the household's just not conducive for this kid because there's fighting in that house. What's probably happening is they're having to realign their roles. The step-parent and the parent are trying to realign that role, and it's just not jiving.
It's not. And I think speaking to that scenario, I think it's important to understand too, if there is litigation going on, how easily that can turn into videotaping, taking notes, things like that, and utilizing the other child. And so that's
like weaponizing it.
Yeah, you weaponize the other child. And so it's important that those discussions of figuring out where do I fit, how do I help,
Right.
are done not in front of the children. And it also can be a very difficult conversation to have with your spouse. And so giving yourself the space and the patience to have that conversation with.
I've heard that second marriages, the rate of divorce is higher.
It is.
And I'm wondering, and I've never looked at the stat, and I probably should, which is it higher also when there's kids? Makes sense? Like, is it, and I'm sure that probably is. There's probably a correlate there. And so then I wonder, is being a step parent, right, being that bonus parent that they're wanting to be, it's influencing the marriage because of all the dynamics that are going on. Because I've had scenarios where, parents, the step parents come in going, hey, me and dad are splitting up, or when I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, obviously the impact of the litigiousness of the case or the kid or the custody or whatever's going on has put a damper on the marriage. So now the bonus parent is just, like you said, kicked to the curb and feeling all this heat and this pressure and just like, I can't do this anymore. And that's what I'm saying. There's just not enough resources for them.
It is such a difficult situation, and I have seen that similar scenario play out. And I think it's important that step parents and really couples everywhere hear this and say, hey, it's okay. Like, we're not alone. There are clearly millions of other people that are struggling with this. There is a way to get help. And I think giving them that hope and those skills and those tools is going to be so essential in hopefully promoting and creating hope and change for them.
So how do they find you? How do they find this course that you offer so they can get this?
So it's called Bonus Parents Essentials. It is, if you go to our website at Brighter Possibilities Family Counseling, you can Google us. And under the classes tab, you can find the different classes. I do offer in-person and a virtual option.
So even if they're not in town,
even if they're not in Fort Worth, Texas, they can still join and get some helpful knowledge.
Deal. Yeah. And if I can say this, you've run courses that have been in person. You've run courses that have done the digital. And maybe you just give us a little feedback on what are they saying at the end of it? What are these parents saying, these step parents, these bonus parents now, saying about what they...
I think the biggest thing that I have heard the participants get out of the class is they have a group of other people that can hear and they can relate to.
Wow.
Right. Their challenges, they're not alone.
Yep.
Right. And again, the statistics speak that they're not alone, but nobody talks about that struggle.
And there it is.
And having the opportunity to sit in a table around other step parents, other bonus parents, of listening to their struggles and being like, oh, wow. And getting tidbits from other people and saying, oh, that worked for you, or that didn't work for you. Or even, dare I say, sometimes being like, well, I guess it's not that bad for me.
I was going to say sometimes they just go in and compare it. It's like, I don't have it in that as well.
It could be worse.
I talked about that on an episode with Jen. We talked about how people use comparison. So that's definitely something that can happen here. So for you listeners, thank you, Armando, again, for going over this topic with us. Like I said, it's just one of those topics, like you were just saying, doesn't get talked about enough. And here you are willing to talk about it. And I just applaud you for that. I thank you for it. What an awesome opportunity for our listeners to have that. For those of you interested in the Bonus Parent Essentials course and class that we offer here at Brighter Possibilities, the best way to find it is Brighter Possibilities, F as in family, C as in counseling.com. Again, brighterpossibilitiesfc.com/classes. Registration is currently open. So for those of you that are interested, please know that registration is currently open. Once it fills up, we will close it off. There comes a point where we can only take in so many at this time. So please make sure you look into that. We will put a link down below for you so that you can click the link to make it easier to navigate. We want to make it as simple as possible for you, but in the event you forget that, just brighterpossibilitiesfc.com/classes. A couple of things that people are saying about this course is, I did not know what I did not know. This class was very informative to me, learning what type of step parent I am and learning the different roles kids play was very helpful. More classes, this is what people are hoping for. It helps having a group and hearing other people's struggles who are in similar situations. Armando spoke about that in the podcast episode we had regarding this, that people love to know they're not alone. We can't wait to serve. We can't wait to be a part of this for you, and just know that we are here to help you keep moving forward. Thank you for being here. So for our listeners, please follow us on Instagram at Brighter Possibilities FC and on Facebook at Brighter Possibilities Family Counseling. We'd also like your feedback. So if you found something helpful, if you loved what you heard today, shoot us some feedback. Give us what helped you. Let us know how we're making a difference in your life by having this podcast out here for you. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you again, Armando.
Thank you, Michael.
Keep moving forward, everyone.